Hello and welcome to the Elder Tree podcast. My name is Twiggy Dawn, founder of the Elder Tree and Alchemilla Herbals. You are listening to the Herbal Educators segment, where each new moon I will be inviting a series of guests to chat about the world of herbal education, about their passions and motivations, and their dreams for the future of herbal medicine in Australia. Come join us on this deep journey with Rosie Cooper, a grassroots herbalist, herbal facilitator and teacher from Dja Dja Warrung country in Victoria. Rosie is passionate about assisting people to foster deeper relationships with plants, letting the plants themselves guide the process. Rosie runs wilderness rites of passage, nature quests, plant connection courses, herbal first aid workshops and medicine making workshops. She makes and sells her beautiful seasonal medicines and works a lot with the wild medicine in her region. In this interview, you can hear about Rosie's meandering experience into herbal medicine, beginning with being in the USA and being inspired by their grassroots herbal medicine movement, then returning home to Australia and feeling isolated and lonely without having any accessible face-to-face herbal medicine teachers. Often these experiences can drive people to action, and as has been the case with Rosie. She loves to move with the plants in a slow way, facilitating embodied spaces which invoke deeper listening in a non-academic way. In this episode, we explore the importance of rites of passage for our youth coming into adulthood, about discovering what memory remains in our bones from our ancestors, combined with what is emerging in the here and now. Rosie shares her dreams for the future about coming back into herbal medicine, coming back into common sense, and seeing more people growing herbs, celebrating diversity, and creating more accessibility for herbal medicine. She shares her dreams as an introduced person to this land, finding a deep relationship with the introduced plants in this land, the plants of her ancestry. Sit back with a nice cup of herbal tea, and I hope that you enjoy this beautiful conversation. Hi, Rosie. Welcome onto the Elder Tree podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
It feels like at long last that we get to be here together. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I've been watching you at a distance with admiration for quite some time. And so it feels really nice to have you on here and to get to introduce some of our listeners to you that might not have had the opportunity to tune in with your work. Yeah, I love your offerings with Kin Botanica and all of the beautiful things that you've been doing on a community herbalism level. So yeah, thanks for being an inspiration to me, and
Wow.
thanks for being here.
Thank you. Likewise, it's a real pleasure watching everything that you're offering into the world and to the herbal community. Yeah, it's really precious.
Thank you. So where to start? I'd love to know, before we get into the whole world of herbal education, I'd love to know what plant is really singing to you right now, or like if there's a particular plant that you're really working with or connecting with at the moment.
I think, well, the first plant who comes, it's so funny, all the plants bustle into my head like me. But I think the first one who got in there is plantain. And yesterday I was wandering around a garden with a couple of friends looking at all the plants who were growing there, and we were kind of, we were a bit up and in our heads, and we're like, oh, this plant and that plant, and then I spotted a little plantain and I was like, oh, look, it's plantain, and we got down on the ground and we were chatting, and I just realized, we sat there for maybe 20 minutes or so and just felt a lot of appreciation for plantain, for like that bringing us down to the earth and that groundedness. And it's definitely one of my favorite plants. And I've been drawn to it more recently because I had a really intense sinus infection a couple of weeks ago, and plantain was one of the herbs that I turned to for support with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I always love plantain, but I guess there's a few plants who are I do have favorites, and plantain's one of them. But at the moment, it's at the top of the list.
I love it. Yes, plantain is absolutely a top of my list. Don't tell Motherwort, who's my best friend, but plantain in terms of functionality and daily use and just the versatility of that plant. And often say that if I could only take one plant with me to another planet, it would be plantain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful.
That's great that it helped you with your sinus infection. Was that just eating fresh, or did you make a preparation, or
No,
how did you work with it for that?
I was just having it as a tea, as an infusion, which I would
Mm,
infuse overnight and drink through the day. I did have plans to do like a nasal rinse with a neti pot, but I didn't have a neti pot. And by
mm,
the time I found one, the sinus infection had cleared up. Um, I was using other herbs as well, but I did really feel like the plantain was quite supportive through. It was 3 weeks that I was really knocked out with it, um, and yeah, I was just
mm,
grateful to have that on hand. I used dried herbs, dried plantain leaves for the teas.
mhm.
Yeah.
Great, thanks for sharing. I haven't worked with plantain for sinus infection, so that's
Mm,
great. I mean, anything membranes is such a
yeah.
great plant for.
Mm,
So, as you may recall, I love to unravel. I love to explore the world of herbal education, and I really thrive in talking with herbal educators and hearing about their journey and sharing that with our listeners. And
mhm,
so, I would love to ask you if you want to share what your journey, I suppose, as a student has been, or what your
mm,
who your main teachers have been and main influences have been that have led you to this moment.
yeah. It's always a difficult question. It's so big. Well, the question is simple, but the answer has so many possibilities to
Hmm.
follow. Um, I think my journey as a student has been, uh, in a way, it was quite challenging. And I think looking back, it's because I didn't really know how to articulate what I wanted, what I was looking for. And um, it actually just clicked to me for me today that what drew me to herbalism was not so much that I was really interested in helping individuals with their healing journey, but it was more that I was drawn to cultural repair and that form of healing on a more cultural scale. um,
Mm.
and yeah, so that's sort of something that I'll be pondering about for a while. But so then when I went to, um, I discovered herbalism, the idea of it, I was like, what? You can do magic with plants and it's a real thing. This is amazing. Um, while I was traveling over in the US, and I was like, great. Think I was 22 or 23, and I felt like I finally knew what I was going to do with my life. And I'd be able to tell people that I could get them off my back, and be like, what are you going to do? And I was going to go home and study herbalism and do a herbal apprenticeship. And um, when I got home to Australia, uh, I couldn't find any herbal apprenticeship opportunities anywhere, or
Mm.
any herbal education opportunities, except for doing a health science degree at university, which, wasn't quite what I was going for, but I started. And I think right from the outset, I just I couldn't quite find my place in it. And the majority of other students there were coming from a place of either having experienced a serious health condition, which they'd, found support with through herbalism, or someone in their family had had an experience. And I'd never had any serious health issues or had any personal experience with herbalism in that way. I just thought it was super cool and magic. And I already worked with plants in other ways. And I wanted to have, I don't know, I just wanted to work with plants more and get to know them better and, the magic that they offer the world. So, so I sort of pursued uni for a few years and tried a couple of different universities and slightly different courses, but ultimately realized it was crushing my soul. And so I dropped out, but still didn't really know what to do with it, what to do with myself or what to follow. And so it was, I don't know, it was a bit tricky, but I think a turning point was when, it was probably 3 years after I started studying. And I don't really know what the context was, but when I think of it now, it's almost like, it feels like this moment saved my life. And there were two things. And one was that I discovered the online herbal magazine called Plant Healer, which was published by Kiva Rose Harden and Jessie Harden. And it's just this amazing resource of articles from all sorts of different herbalists on all sorts of different topics. And it is abundant with like just interesting, curious, fun things and stories. So that was really inspiring. And at the same time, I also started listening to a CD that I had, which had interviews by John Gallagher from Herb Mentor, interviewing other herbalists. And I think there were about 12 interviews on the CD, and I just listened to them over and over again. And it just showed me that there are actually all these different ways of being a herbalist. And it's not just like a cookie cutter thing, as I felt like I was being shown through university, which was like, these are the herbs you learn about, and this is like the minuscule facts that you need to know about each herb, and just memorize it. And all these other herbalists who I was listening to in these interviews were they were describing things like relationship and stories of being out in the world and harvesting plants and making medicines and making mistakes, and like lifelong journeys with plants. And it was really inspiring, and it gave me hope that I could find a way to do it that worked for me. But it also, they were pretty much all American, and it made me also feel really lonely and isolated, that I might never have a real life teacher where I live. So yeah, it was an interesting moment, but it definitely gave me hope. I'm just going to take a pause. And I think actually it might have been listening to those interviews from Herb Mentor Radio that I first heard, or it might have even been in the Plant Healer magazine, that I first came across Rebecca Altman. And she's a herbalist and very magical person who lives in America, in California. And she makes really amazing potions, and she makes medicine that tastes good and feels good. And that was quite radical for me at the time, because I was like, just making medicines and they all just tasted like medicine. And it was really fun, the idea of making it taste good. And using things like sugar or honey to, just make it more enjoyable. And that's definitely infused into my approach with herbs. I was talking to someone the other day that I feel like there's really important medicine in enjoyment itself. And so if the medicine, not always, but if the medicine can be enjoyable, then why not? So anyway, but I really loved Rebecca's perspective, and I started following her newsletter, and she was writing these amazing articles about plants and their personalities, and they were just rich and detailed, and I was just so blown away at like where she got this information from, which I knew she was getting from her relationship with the plants, but I couldn't quite fathom how she got to that point. And so for many years I daydreamed traveling back to the States and doing an apprenticeship with Rebecca. Not that, as far as I know, she was offering apprenticeships, but that was my daydream. And then at some point she decided to offer an online course, which was supposedly going to be seasonal herbalism, but it turned out to be more just, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess it's called the Wonder Sessions. And I was in the first group who went through, and I think it was going to be 12 months. And it turned out to be 3 years long in magic, like connecting with the elements, with ourselves first and with the elements, and moving through the world as a larger self and in reciprocity with the world, but not in a kind of thinky, brainy way or a theoretical way, in like actually just an embodied, real way. And dismantling the education paradigm really was a big part of it, of the idea of having to tick the boxes or move at a certain pace or keep up with everyone or pass the tests. A big part of working with Rebecca was about finding our own pace and our own rhythm and following our own curiosity. And there was work with plants specifically as well, but I think what it offered was a much larger foundation towards a holistic herbal practice of which could be working with plants, but I think it's really just working with life and other living beings beyond ourselves, but also within ourselves. So Rebecca's been a big influence in my herbal practice. I would say, so recently, last year, I did the online Lindera program with Jim McDonald, who's another American herbalist, and that was really amazing. I, for a few years, listened again and again and again to his, this is also on Herb Mentor. He's got a online recording of his foundational herbcraft writing. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's sort of a framework for understanding and approaching herbalism, which is based on other people's work as well. But I really enjoy the way that Jim puts it into really accessible language, and it's really about using our physical senses to understand herbal medicine as a starting point, which I love so much because it makes it accessible to everyone. So he's been a big teacher for me, and I also love the way he teaches. One of the things that attracts me to teachers is their style. And it's not necessarily that I want to learn what they're teaching, although I do, but I also just want to find out how they teach, because I think I can see that they're making really beautiful connective spaces in the world, whether that's their intention or not. And that kind of goes back to that cultural repair piece that really draws me in. So Jim, Rebecca, I mentioned Kiva Rose before. I love her work and her writings. And I feel like I'm missing someone. There's been so many people, but the other person who is not directly herbal related, but was a key piece in my herbal journey, was working with Claire Dunn of Nature's Apprentice. And it was sort of as I was coming out of the university studies and just sort of coming to accept that maybe wasn't the path for me. And I got drawn into a course that she was offering, actually with Taj Cicluna, the Permapixie, and they were offering a 12-month course in nature connection and ceremony and herbalism. But it was doing the nature connection processes of like making fire by friction, and starting to learn the language of birds and basket weaving, and just really getting close to the earth and building that relationship with the land. I couldn't explain it at the time, but I knew that was the piece that had been missing for me from being at university, which was so theoretical. And it was working with Claire that kind of dropped the magic into my body and opened me up to that possibility of, I guess, working in what felt like a more practical way with plants and with life. Yeah, so I think that covers the big ones.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's such a rich journey. I really loved going on that with you, getting a bit of an insight. And yeah, there's so much in that. Like you're talking about John Gallagher. Yeah, him and his family in America have been amazing influence in our household. With his wife Kim's made the Herb Fairies series, the children's book series, which my daughter and I have read, over and over together, and it's been such a beautiful way of bringing herbs into her world in a more relevant way for her. Bring in that mystical, that fairy realm storytelling way of connecting with the herbs. And we've also got their board game that they made, Wildcraft. Yeah, Wildcraft. Yep. And we love playing that because it's a cooperative game and working together with the herbs for the good of all, rather than competitive games. And yeah, and we learn a lot together just doing those games as well. So yeah, and I love their magazines and the Herb Mentor radio like you mentioned. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And you talked as well about the Lindera program with Jim McDonald. So does he offer that online as well? Because I know he offers that face to face.
Yeah, so he just started offering during, I think it was during lockdowns, COVID, he started offering that online. And
beautiful.
It's really it's a huge amount of material in recorded form, and then monthly live Zoom calls, which I don't know, go for something like 4 or 5 hours. I don't know how anyone could teach for that long straight and with so much energy, but online. But it's yeah, I really loved it. And it was something that I'd wanted,
Mm-hmm.
also looked at traveling to do in person for a long time. And so I was really grateful when it came online.
Mm. Great. Just for our listeners out there that might be madly scrabbling for a pen right now to try to write down all of these names, I'll put links in the show notes for all of this as well, that we're talking about, just so you know out there. Yeah, that's amazing as well. That influence you're talking about with Claire Dunn and Taj. I've heard a lot about Claire Dunn and her book, My Year Without Matches,
Hmm.
and it sounds like she's a really inspirational teacher, really facilitating kind of nature connection in a way through like depending on nature and being in nature as a part of nature. Yeah, I would
Mm.
love to attend one of her face-to-face teachings sometimes. That's really beautiful. You got that opportunity with her and with Taj too. That would have been
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it was really
Mm.
special. Um, and it was actually with Claire that, because I then went on to do other work with her and supported her on other programs for a few
Mm.
years. And I think that in terms of teaching, my teaching, I learned a lot from Claire. Like, she was probably my first mentor in facilitation, and holding space. So I owe a lot of
Uh-huh.
gratitude to her. I hold a lot of gratitude for her.
So
Mm.
so was that kind of like your segue into what led into being a herbal medicine teacher, was through those working with Claire Dunn?
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. Uh, yes, because Claire was the first person who said, "So when are you going to start teaching, Rosie?" Um, and I kind of went, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
well, I'm not ready yet," which I know is a common feeling for many people.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, her nudges definitely encouraged me to get out there and start offering some workshops. Mm. Um, yeah.
Beautiful. And so what was that journey like for you? Like, becoming a teacher and bringing herbal medicine to the people. What's that journey been like for you?
Uh, it's been slow and lots of
Mm.
trial and error. And I think the error mostly being in um, o- over, like, putting too much in and wanting to give so much. And I think that coming from a place of feeling like I'm not enough. And so feeling like I don't have enough to offer.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make sure that their plates are so
Yeah, I
full.
can really relate to that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So the journey I can see now has really been learning to, just slowly stripping things back, and learning to trust what I know, and actually realizing that keeping things really simple makes it more, in a way, makes the experience fuller for a lot of people. Because if you can give someone just like one thing that they can really take the time to savor and take into their body and their experience, that's going to, it might not stay in their mind, but the experience lasts in their body, compared to when I first started out and I'd be like, there's this and this herb and this herb and this herb and this herb. And it was like everyone had to try and remember all of that in their head. Um, but it could be a bit overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me as well. And I mostly just dissociated while teaching in those first um, couple of years, I'd say.
mm, yeah. Yeah, wow, it's so interesting. It's like so much of that is like listening to myself. The
Mm.
what you were saying just reminds me of what I often have to tell myself before workshops is to not let myself get in the way and to not, it's not
Mm.
about me. It's not about me being the teacher. It's about the, the people are coming to learn something. Often they're coming to learn from the plants, whether or not they
Mm.
frame it like that or realize that. But it's just more like I'm an intermediary that's just assisting the information or the experience to happen, and it's not about me, just to remove my ego. So it's not about me doing it wrong
Yeah.
or right or good or bad or having to be better or live up to expectations. It's just trying to help to hold space for people to access the experience they're needing and the learning that they're needing. So yeah, and everything
Mm.
you just said just really sounds like a lot of what's gone through my own head, and in getting myself out of the way with workshops.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, for those of us who have been studying and working with plants for a long time, I think it's really easy to take our knowledge for granted
Yeah.
and assume that it's common knowledge. And it's really, really not. And so,
No.
like, the most simplest things to us, which could be like, um, having a cup of thyme tea if you've got like a lung infection or something, like a chesty cough or something like that. Um, like, that could be life changing for someone, just to realize something so simple as that. But um, yeah, I think it's really helpful to remember that the basics, like just starting with the basics, and often that's enough for people to get started, and they don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be, well, they're not going to get to be like having the knowledge of having studied herbalism for 10 years from doing a 1-day workshop. It's just starting with the simple things first. And
Mm.
a question that has come up in my workshops again and again, which I love so much because it always reminds me of that, is people will ask me, what actually is, like, what do you mean by a herb? And it just brings me back. I'm like, oh yeah, like, it's not obvious because people think of a herb and they might think of parsley or rosemary or something like that. But in herbalism, we use it in a much more open sense. And um, yeah, I really just like the simplicity of that question.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
I love as well. I love how much how passionate you are about facilitating spaces for people to connect with plants as well, and for people to gain a more like embodied personal relationship with the plants, because so many of
Mm.
the people that come to my workshops are seeking that. And even though I can find that for myself, and am on a continuing journey of finding that for myself, but it's harder I haven't quite learnt those tools yet to really help other people to have that connection. So it's something I've been
Mm.
inspired by at a distance of that kind of work that you're doing in getting people, and and doing that kind of space does require the slower, more simple way, because if we're coming at it from a more academic university like headspace perspective, we're just going to try to like cram all this information into people's heads and hope they remember it, and have all this like deadlines and timeframes and information and structure, whereas like to actually be able to have the true like embodied connection with the plants, and for people to be able to connect with their own personal intuition and their own, and listen to their own bodies, and to be able to listen to the plants, it's like that actually requires a much more slower pace and a more simplistic way of doing it. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that yeah, the way that you're doing it is really quite inspirational for me.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I love. And the beautiful thing about it as I guess, a teacher, facilitator, I think teacher, I think I'm getting more comfortable with the term teacher, um, is that it takes the pressure off. I'm like, okay, you guys go sit with the plant for half an hour and I'll just sit here and eat some chocolate. it's,
Yeah.
and but it's so powerful, and people come back with their own personal stories of experience with that plant, and like, that's not something that you can get from a book. because
Mm-hmm.
it's personal and it's intimate, and but it is slow and it requires trust, that it's enough. Like, it's enough to hold a kind of workshop space where you don't really do much, and a lot of it is really just sitting with a plant, or I like doing lots of blindfold activities with plants as well, for people to kind of take away that sense of sight, but so they can tune into their other senses and connect with the plants in those ways. And it's just amazing the wisdom that comes through from those relationships that form with people.
Mm.
Yeah, and they're that's the kind of learning which will stay with a person for their whole life,
Yeah,
whether it's
definitely.
conscious or not, but it'll come back, at the drop of a hat, which is sort of the reflections that I get from people, long after the workshop. They'll be like, they'll suddenly remember that they can connect with the plant, for help, and not even necessarily in a physical medicinal way, but just tuning in with the plant and receiving support
Mm-hmm.
from that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a definite thing.
Mm.
That's a definite thing that a lot of people don't even stop to consider is possible. Like I've I've summoned the energy of a plant to direct it into healing someone before, and then observed and watched that take place. Just like calling
Mm.
that spirit in. You're not even needing the physical plant, because just calling in the essence and the spirit of that to come and do the work. And and
Yeah.
then watch that happen. And so many people don't even realize that's possible because there's not many teachers
Yeah.
out there that really teach that kind of
Mm.
thing.
Mm.
Our parents aren't really teaching it to us. Our primary schools and high schools aren't really teaching it to us. I mean, unless you happen to be
No.
one of the lucky few that got some parents that do teach you that.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and they didn't have anyone to teach it to them either.
Yeah,
And,
it's not their
back how
fault.
many generations? Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. There was something that a term that you mentioned earlier, cultural repair, and I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering if you uh, would felt to speak a little bit about that, like what that is for you.
Mm. I think I got interested in the word culture around, I would say, at exactly the same time that I discovered herbalism. Um, I was living in a community, while I was traveling. I was there for a couple of months, where they were really, exploring the idea of cultural repair. They were exploring cultural rehabilitation, but just looking at the fact that the way that our Western culture was existing is, really unhealthy and not serving us to live enjoyable lives, and causing harm in the process to the planet and to other beings around us. So I got curious. Like, I didn't really feel clear about what culture was exactly. And when I asked people what they thought, they all said, oh, culture, it's language and it's art and it's this and that. And I thought, yeah, but like, how can that be broken, or like that they're just things? And for me, I kind of came to think that culture is, I was thinking about fermentation processes and, your yogurt cultures and things. And it's the thing which gets passed on from generation to generation, to inspire the growth of the next generation. And the things which we pass on in our Western culture at the moment are lots of fears and lots of disconnection, and really capitalism, and things which don't foster health or happiness. And so I guess that's important to me, to start changing that. And because I want life to continue. I would love for humans to continue on this planet, and in a beautiful way, if possible, to get back to that. Well, not necessarily back, but to move forwards to that. And yeah, so it's, I think there's it's such a big topic, but for me, my herbal work is an element of that, and especially bringing people into closer relationship with plants and with nature and with themselves, and coming to that place of being able to trust themselves, trust their own senses, and that knowing that they are enough. Because I think that fear that we're not enough, and the fear that we don't belong or that we won't be accepted, it really drives a lot of issues in our world. So yeah, the herbalism is one little gateway, inviting people into listening and into that connection, and into that place of like, magic is real, and it's possible to have these relationships with beings who aren't human, and they're real relationships, and they'll tell you things that are real, that you can then go and look up in a book, but they all tell you without words. And you'll know it in your body just from being close and listening to them. So yeah, that's one piece. And another big part of the work that I do is around offering wilderness rites of passage, as another gateway towards that cultural repair and bringing people into closer relationship with themselves and the land and spirit.
Oh, that's really powerful.
Yeah. I don't know if that actually answered your question or not. But
I don't even remember what my question was, but I was just right in there with your sharing. So,
yeah.
But yeah, well, it was around cultural repair and or cultural
Yeah.
rehabilitation was also the other way
Yeah.
that you put it, and and wilderness rites of passage. That sounds really powerful, and yeah, love to know a little bit more about that offering if you feel to share.
Well, so there's two parts at the moment, and one is that I'm working with a community group, and we've been working together for a few years to sort of, I guess, remember the offering or remember the holding of sacred rites of passage for young people stepping towards adulthood. And so that's just like a local community offering, and it's amazing. And we just ran our first program earlier this year for young women. And there's sort of been a longer history of rites of passage for men in the area. And anyway, so that's emerging and evolving and really enriching. It's just really exciting to see that that's happening, and the possibility of teens stepping forward as initiated people towards adulthood, because I think that's what so many of us yearned for when we were teenagers, was for someone to hold us in ceremony and to see us and to see our power and our beauty. So that's amazing. And then the other part is that on occasion I offer nature quest programs, which some people call them vision quests, or wilderness fasts, or vision fasts, or there's all these different names from different lineages. And that's the crux of that, I guess, is a 4-day 4-night solo time out in the bush fasting. And it's a ceremony which just invites people to step into deep listening between themselves and the universe, really, the world around them.
Mm.
Mm.
Powerful. I've had the opportunity to be in the support camp for a traditional Lakota vision quest. With
Mm.
the questers going up on the hill for 4 days and 4 nights without food or water. It's very powerful, initiatory, strengthening, connecting
Mm-hmm.
experience. So yeah, that's really beautiful. And what you're
Yeah.
saying around the lack of rites of passage in our culture. It's like it's so true in this modern time that we're in. It's a very confusing time to be a teenager. And not sure if you've read Sand Talk by Tyson Yunker Porter, but he talks about
Mm.
the that in like the Western culture that we really drag out this teenage years for way too long, and that
Mm.
for him, from where he's from with his people, that it's a much shorter process, and it's like you're a child, you go through an initiatory process, and then you're an adult. There's not this like weird
Mm.
limbo thing of like, oh, I'm a teenager, am I a child or am I an adult? I don't know, how do I move through the world, like what even am I? And it can be such a confusing time. But if we were to really, to really like honor that time and give them a real tangible sense of like, okay, this is me coming of age, like this is me now stepping into, I'm not a child anymore, and I'll hopefully always have the connection with the inner child and have that youth vitality, but
Mm.
they're like coming into that I'm kind of coming in with a bit of a sense of self-respect and a pride, if that's the right word, or a sense of
Yeah.
dignity, and like being
Yeah.
a respectful thing, rather than this kind of, oh, shame, my body's developing, people don't really want to talk about it, I don't know, like this change is happening. And it can be just a really confusing time for both boys and girls becoming men and women. And I think it's really beautiful that you're creating that space, in your community, to work with people to recreate that experience into whatever feels relevant and right here and now. Because we can try to pick up the threads of what our all of our different ancestors might have been doing, but it's we kind of got to create something a bit new, maybe weave in some of the
Yeah.
old ways, but there's something kind of, I suppose, that's new that's got to come through now. So yeah, I applaud you for doing that work.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel really lucky to live within a community of people who are really passionate about it. Both to make it happen, but also to be participants, to, willing to
Mm.
step through that. And yeah, and it really is like, it's sort of like none of us know what it looks like. We didn't experience it for ourselves. So it's like we can sort of try and remember what, kind of little threads there are within our bones, kind of lingering from our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And but also really listening to what's emerging for, as you say, for this moment and this present day. Um, mm,
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately because, my daughter is just about to turn 11 in a week. But, her friends all around her are well and truly tweens. And yeah,
mm,
she's really preparing for that. Really kind of starting to go into the chrysalis of that, that phase. And,
mm,
I've got a friend, Donna Raymond, who wrote a really beautiful book called Maiden, and it's all about guiding young girls into their womanhood with a sense of like sacredness and presence. And I've actually bought that book so many times and never read it because I keep putting it straight into someone's hands and then going, hang on, I need to get so I've just ordered a new copy a few days ago. And I'm like, no, I'm not giving it to anybody because I need to
yeah.
actually read this, because I definitely
Mm,
can't do whatever I've been role modeled. That's not what's going to happen. And
Mm.
yeah, I really love this idea of the wilderness aspect in it, and bringing that in. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so maybe
Yeah,
I'll have
it's a
to come
really
down to
powerful
your
part.
community with my daughter and, or
Yeah.
bring you up here. Maybe we could bring you up here to help to show us some different ways of doing things so we can be exploring it a bit more as in our community, because it is still something that's not spoken about enough, I think, and not actioned enough.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a big topic in itself. It's such a
Yeah.
massive topic.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I would love to know, you mentioned before that you can kind of go 6 months in between your bursts of inspiration, for the next offering. And um, I know that right now there's some other things that are taking up your priorities, but I'm wondering, like, what the future, I suppose what the future might be holding for you, but also like
Mm.
what you see coming, and like the world that you'd like to see in herbal medicine. Like, what's the
Mm.
next step for us in Australia? You've mapped out this experience of being in America and being really inspired, and then coming to Australia and feeling really isolated, and alone in not having teachers around you, that were like the kind of
Mhm.
teachers and the kind of herbalists that are happening in America. But then these teachers have been starting to emerge in Australia, and there's been more inspirations coming. There's a change happening. There's definitely a change happening in the grassroots herbal education world in Australia, and it's pretty exciting time. But like, what's the next step for you, and what do you think is also the next step for us, like as a country or as a national community, like with herbal medicine? Like, what's what's coming, or what would you like to see coming? It's a
Ah,
big question.
yeah. Checking out my crystal ball. Um, I think the next step. Well, first of all, it's brought me so much joy over maybe the last mm, like 4 years, 4 or 5 years, seeing more and more grassroots herbalists and herbal educators sprouting up from the ground. Like, um, it's just made me so happy because I didn't have a lot of connection to people doing that sort of thing for so long. And I felt this weight of obligation that I had to make it all possible. And so it's been every time I see someone else offering a workshop, I'm like, it's such a relief. I don't have to do that now. And, so that's really good. And it means that I can focus on fine tuning what it is that I really genuinely want to offer
Mm,
myself and what's true for me. And um, I think what is maybe, and I have to say maybe to everything because I have so many ideas all the time, and I probably act on 1 or 2% of them in real life. But I like daydreaming. So I think I have a Patreon thing project page that I was running at the start of the year. And I started that when I had an injury and I wasn't able to work, but I felt like making a monthly medicine, like just one, I'd just do one herbal medicine each month, and I'll send that out to people with a bit of a writing about that plant. And that felt easy for me, and I was doing that and I really enjoyed that. And I think that it's on hold at the moment, but I might bring that back in spring. I put it on pause because I started feeling the pressure and the obligation. It was starting to feel stressful, and I'm just using that as a gauge at the moment that maybe that's not where my energy needs to be, or I'm not doing it in a way that is good for me. So so the Patreon might be coming back, which I really enjoy as a way of I guess introducing people to a plant. And most of my Patreon supporters at the moment live in my area, so they're often plants which are growing around us at that time when I send them out. So it's just nice. It's just another way to invite those connections with people. And I like to also include like the recipe of whatever I've sent out. So it's not just like I've made this thing and you have to come back to me if you want more. Like they can go and make it themselves and foster their own connections with those plants. And it's also a good motivation for me to do a bit more writing because I do love writing, but I don't often do it under my own steam. So that's sort of in the maybe basket. And other things are, well, at the moment, I'm just starting working. I mentioned this to you earlier, but working with two friends who I'm doing a work trade with, and part of that is they're helping me out with some stuff at home, and in return for some herbal training. And I have a feeling it's going to evolve into something that I might offer to other people or something down the track. And I keep saying that I just want it to be easy. And so it's the same thing. It's kind of working with plants, and I've suggested that they each, choose a plant who they're feeling drawn to at the moment, and we'll work with that one plant. Or they can work with that one plant over a time, and just taking time to first build a relationship with the plant before even thinking about harvesting or what can I use this plant for or how can I take advantage of this plant, because often that's the mindset we go in with, of like, what can this plant do for me, rather than just admiring the beauty of their being. So that's nothing set in, that's not really a thing that I'm offering, but it's just sort of, it feels like there's something being dreamt up there. But I have offered a course like that in the past. It turned out to be like a 6-month course working with just one plant. We did about 6 months with wild rose, and it was really, really beautiful to just give all of that time and devotion to one plant. So that might happen again one day. But what I'd like to see for the future, I don't know if I can speak on such a large scale, but maybe I can. I can. What what brings me the most joy is when I'm speaking to a friend or a family member and they've realized that they can use a herb in a certain way for themselves. It's like, it's that empowering thing. And, they realize that they can, just use a herb that's growing in the garden or that they have in their pantry to make themselves a cup of tea to feel better, or to make a tincture or whatever. And I think that's what I want to see more of, is just herbalism coming back into common sense and common knowledge as a foundational thing. And not that everyone will be an expert, but just basic day-to-day home remedies and healthcare will be, for that to be normalized, and not like a weird thing to do, or not like a mystical magical thing. Like, it is mystical and magical, but you don't have to spend $100 to go and see a naturopath to get some rosemary tea for your stuffy sinuses. I don't know if that's a thing, but it seems like to go and see a professional herbalist is really expensive, which is why I never do that. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like it to be more common. I'd like more people growing herbs, medicinal herbs as well in Australia, because there's so many herbs that are imported, like really common things that could grow really well here. So more herb farms, but we need to have more demand for herbs first to make that viable. And just diversity. I think just diversity of different people doing herbalism in different ways, and that being celebrated and supported between us all. Yeah. And with that, accessibility, so that when people need to go and see a herbalist who's a professional beyond just the day-to-day home herbalism kind of thing, they're able to go and find someone who can help them.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. And for me personally, one day I'll live at the edge of the forest and have my herb garden, and I'll have my people come and we do herbalism together, and there'll be other things happening off on the land somewhere else, and there'll be people out doing wilderness rites of passage in the forest, and it will just be, you know, all happening at the same time in some weird symphony of life.
Oh, beautiful. So mote it be. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, we're speaking these things into being, and you know, like you saying all of that, it's like it's happening and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, and then all the thousands of people that hear this will, you know, just their collective focus is also helping to manifest this into being. And so thank you for doing that. Yeah, that dreaming around home herbalism, or the normalization and the, you know, the common sense of herbalism is just such a reflection of my own dreaming as well. I was speaking with Lily the other day, and she's in Thailand, and she was talking about how she was walking around and trying to find a herbalist, and she's asking in, you know, in Thai language how to find a herbalist, and everyone's going, no, 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 no herbalist, no herbalist, until she got to somebody who could explain to her that no, we don't have herbalists because we're all like grow and wild harvest. We all have access to herbal medicine around us that we know how to use for our health. And if there's something that's really serious, we go to a doctor or like a hospital or something like that for, you know, for like full on things. But for day-to-day health, like we're all practice herbs, and it's kind of like as a culture they just are living, well, it's beyond home herbalism. It kind of goes into folk herbalism. It's just like an unbroken line of a culture that's just their way of life, and it's something that we, as a, you know, coming in from a fragmented kind of, we're all coming from different places, you know, we're all kind of not on our ancestral lands here, and you know, it's a journey just to start to recreate that space where we can connect with the medicine growing around us and start to get empowered and start to remember and teach one another and start to normalize this. And yeah, I get astounded at the amount of people that come to my workshops, like doctors and nurses, and local police officers want to come along as well. They haven't come yet, but like all of, you know, the people in society that aren't fringe dwellers at all, they're just like everyday, dare I say mainstream, without wanting to kind of box things in, but like just they're not, you know, the just everyday people that are wanting to become more self-sufficient and just learn empowering knowledge and how to bring that to their families and to themselves. And so yeah, I mean, I can see it awakening around me in my community, and I can see it in other people's, other grassroots herbal educators communities, it kind of them helping to facilitate or teach or, you know, hold space for people to reconnect with that. And it's pretty exciting. Yeah, so I feel like what everything you just said is what's happening. It's just we're not necessarily there yet completely as a culture. We've got a journey to go, but we're on our way. And it's a really beautiful picture to think that, you know, in however many years to come, that someone might come here to ask for a herbalist, and we might say something much the same thing. You know, you only need to go to a, you know, like a academically trained herbalist, naturopath, or a doctor when it's something extreme or complex, you know. But for everyday ailments, it's just common knowledge. We know what to do. So yeah, we're creating that world together.
It is beautiful to be moving towards that.
Yeah. Well, I think we probably need to start wrapping up. which I feel like I could just keep yarning with you all day. It's really nice to speak with you, and I feel like there's been a lot in this for the listeners out there that have been here on the journey with us. And yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing your journey and your experience, and also your beautiful visions for the future. And um yeah, yeah. Do you have
Mm.
anything that you feel you might like to share with the listeners?
Um,
Any kind of
I was,
parting
I was just
message?
silently laughing, thinking about all of my long-winded ramblings that everyone gets to enjoy. Um, but there is, yes, one thing came to my mind which I think, I don't know, it just popped up really strongly, which has actually been a really big part of my herbal journey, which was that I think when I first started exploring herbalism in Australia, I was really looking for knowledge about um, medicines with indigenous plants and the plants growing
Mm.
in the native forest around me, and getting, and honestly, I was getting frustrated that I couldn't find that knowledge written in books. Um, because I had these romantic ideas of like going out wandering in the forest with my basket and, picking the plants. And a big part of my journey was coming to realize that the plants, which I actually have innately better access to in a sense of embodied knowledge and embodied connection, are plants which have also been introduced to this land as I have been.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
hearing years ago, I heard a Scottish herbalist telling these old stories about comfrey and St. John's wort and sort of how they got their medicine and came into being. And, she'd start telling the story and just a few sentences in, and I was in tears, and it was totally unexpected. But it was just like there was some deep part of me that was remembering something which had been missing. And from then I decided to that the foundation of my practice would be in working with the plants that um, often are invasive around here, like hawthorn and plantain and the wild rose and blackberries, and but that have been introduced um, as I have and my people have been introduced to this land, and that reconnecting those or retwining those threads of connection with the plants from my ancestral lineage would be the place to begin. And once I feel connected and whole along those channels, then I might be in a place of integrity to be able to meet with the plants of this land and understand their medicine, or not. But I'm not going out there with a sense of I need you to tell me, or I need you to give me your medicine, or to teach me this, and like wanting to take more from this land and this place, and from the people who have these ancient relationships with the plants and the land here, and who hold the wisdom of their medicine in their culture. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's a whole thought, but I don't know, it's something that people come to me often, like they want to learn about native plant medicines. And my response is always like, I don't really know, and I don't really feel like the person to teach that anyway. Not at this point, maybe not ever. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's like you just reached into my head and my heart and plucked out my words. Like yeah, everything you just said is exactly how I feel and where I'm coming
Mm.
from with it all too. That journey of that frustration, and then coming to realize that those introduced plants, introduced like us, the medicine of our own ancestors, is a great way for us to reconnect with our own selves and our own lineages, and just having that more slower, patient way to connect with the native medicine when that medicine's ready, instead of demanding that and coming here being like, give me your medicine, I need to know. It's like, I feel like this country, the part of the healing, the cultural rehabilitation of like this land is like us not just demanding to be given anything, knowledge or connection. It's just like actually being patient and waiting to see if that is actually going to come naturally. And in the meantime, we can re-bridge our ancestral connections by connecting with the plantain and the wild rose and the hawthorn and that, or whatever, whatever plants have come from wherever you're from. Like where I am up here in the tropics, we get the plantain, but we get a lot of Ayurvedic and traditional, Chinese herbs up here in the tropics. And I could just imagine that people could come here from pretty well all over the world and find some wild weeds growing that can help them to be connected to their homelands. And so thank you for bringing that piece into this too, because I feel like that will ring true for a lot of the people listening as well.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Rosie. This has been a really nice chat with you today. And
it's been great. I'm so glad that it finally happened.
Finally. Yeah, it was meant to be right now. It couldn't have happened in any other moment.
I don't think it could. I think for me, at least, the timing was perfect. So thank you. Thank you so much for this conversation. Wonderful to speak with you, but also for this podcast and for giving a space for so many different people's voices and dreams and experiences to be shared with everyone. Yeah, it's another one of those things where I was like, great, I don't have to do that now.
Yeah, we got this. We're all ticking the boxes together.
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rosie. Thanks. Have a beautiful evening.
You too. Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Herbal Education segment of the Elder Tree podcast. Stay tuned every new moon as I interview amazing and inspiring herbal educators from around Australia. To find out more about the Elder Tree, you can go to our website, which is theeldertree.org. And through our website, you can subscribe to our mailing list. You can also follow our journey on Instagram and on Facebook. Thank you again so much, and have a most wonderful day.